When I first heard of Cohere, I resonated with the general message of it, and that you were able to marry what seemed like very entrenched old world economics with very future thinking, new world concepts of utilizing new technology. And my personal feeling on Web3 is very similar to yours, which is that in the earliest phase of it, it's been used for really the simplest recreation of what is already the world of finance, and not really backed by the super industrialized military complex or backed by real world assets, which led to hyper volatility in many different ways and many different versions of what looked like Ponzi schemes. And I thought that it's ultimately the technology that matters, not the use of the technology or the early use of the technology. You see the same thing with Internet 1.0. Most of the early projects don't exist anymore. And now we have, Internet whatever 0.0 we're on, that is this, incredible technology and network. But one of the things I also really liked was how you were bringing together what seemed like real world asset networks with crypto networks and then human networks. So can you talk a little bit about the human network side of Cohere and how that operates?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important sources of capital that is really, unfortunately, underrepresented in the current economic system. And one way that gets expressed, if we take let's say the intentional community space, people come together, we build out a community, we're all co-living together permanently. And often in these types of communities, you have people who come and they work for decades, and they building out the pool, building out the assets, building out, let's say, a food forest or building out buildings, directly increasing the value of the property with no equity. So then some power dynamic shifts, and all of a sudden someone who's just spent 20 years putting in so much sweat equity has no equity, and now they need to leave. And then it can easily and often kind of festers into an unhealthy codynamic relationship. And so one of the things that's really important for us on the human capital side and the human network side is how do we actually honor and provide access to equity for people's contributions of the soft skills or of wisdom or of all these things that are normally not accounted for in our pretty reductionist, extractive, crony capitalistic system we have today. And so what that's allowed us to do, when we can compensate people in securities, in actual shares of Cohere for their contributions, that's not only fiat money, now that activates the human network in a way that beforehand wasn't, or was always having some kind of perverse counter incentives. And so one of our goals is to provide everyone the fruits of their labor, and especially wisdom. And this is so important for us because, sometimes people are like, oh, you guys are a bunch of like 20 or 30-year-olds or 40-year-olds who just want to live in paradise. And it's like we actually are trying to build a diverse polyculture where we have all backgrounds represented, especially the elders. And if we don't do that, then we're just going to make the same mistakes that people have already gone through that we could just learn from. And that's what's so important for us to be able to represent all those contributions. That in turn activates much, much more of the human network, because now more people are inspired to plug in, as well as our sister networks who are doing maybe governance work or earth regenerative work or what have you.